Hello and welcome to Man, Woman, God. I'm Nikki Cauchi, your host, and I'm here with my husband, Greg. Now, Greg, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Nikki.
I know you told me off last time because I didn't say hello. I didn't welcome you.
Correct. Yes, as per usual.
Well, this is what happens when you come home as well.
Well, that's
walk
the
straight
truth.
through the door, and it's like, this is what happened. That's what happened today.
Yes.
Okay, so Greg, what I want to talk about today is a quote that I read, and it's from Brian Houston, who, as we all know, is the leader of Hillsong.
Of course.
Great man, huge church, I have to say,
Massive.
and growing. And there's also, I think there's a church here in Melbourne just started up recently.
Yeah.
But let me just read out what he said, and I love this. It says, he said, "Don't focus on church growth, focus on church health. Healthy churches grow." Now,
True.
this comes from a man who actually has a big church, so he obviously knows what he's talking about.
Well, he would know if anyone.
Exactly.
Especially Hillsong.
But what do you make of that, Greg?
Well, I think it's very good because, big churches have their challenges. There's lots of good things about big churches and there's lots of not so good things about big churches. But the danger can be exactly that. The focus is on church growth and not the growth of the individuals. And if you're not really careful about monitoring growth of both and making it happen through leadership but also organically, then it can start to fall apart. Cliques can form, departments can start to think they're bigger and better than what they really are. Cliques form, as I said, and then that's where challenges happen. There's people start judging and the cliques start avoiding certain types of members of the church, and so on and so on. All the problems that go on with cliques and little groups that avoid other groups and so on and so forth. So actually, the more I think about it, the more I think how true it is. If you've got healthy individuals that form the congregation of the church, then the church will organically grow and it will attract growth.
And I think what's important is that people are all individuals, and we all want to be, we all want to be taken care
Actually,
of.
can I just cut across you there for a second and just, I've been to a church that has almost demanded that if you come to this function, you must bring an outsider, almost like it was like a stipulation. You can't come unless you bring a non-Christian or someone that's not a member of the congregation. It's the difference between having to overlay a demand like that, which that's not healthy in my book, as compared to a healthy church full of healthy individuals attracting people into the church like a magnet. So there's a waiting queue of people wanting to get in. Sorry, I just had to get that in.
No, that's okay, because churches, you freely go to a church. You don't go, you're not.
It can't be demanded of you.
Well, that's right, and everyone that goes to church, they're there because, for one reason, and that's because they know who Jesus is, and they accept that Jesus Christ as their Lord and Saviour.
Yes.
And they want to be a part, and they want to be with other people. And they want to be a part of a group of people that believe the same thing.
Yes.
And that are moving forward. Because, as disciples, we've got to move forward. We've got to grow and change and be accountable to one another and help one another. So I guess it's just a freedom thing, really, of coming to a church and being a part of that. But we want to be taken care of as individuals as well. And look, and I have been a part of a big church and I've been a part of a small church. And, I think big churches are great because they've got, and small churches as well, because they've got home groups.
Oh, the home group, yes.
But big churches have home groups to cater for everyone, because, you can't, the whole church can't all meet together, during the week.
Fair enough.
And that does help individual people. And, you've had some good experiences with home groups.
Look, when I first became a Christian and discovered the home group, I didn't know anything about it, and I was invited to join a home group which met once a week. And I just thought it was the best thing, because you go to church on a Sunday and you can go in and to a service and walk out of a service not having had any relationship at all. And that's no one's fault. But with the home group, that's almost like an extended family. And the bonds that you can form there and the accountability that you mentioned just earlier, before you even mentioned home group, I thought of home group just by you saying that. The accountability, the caring, the development of the relationships that happen within home groups, I just think it's the best thing. Even if I didn't believe in Jesus, I'd still want to be part of a home group. I think it's fantastic.
Well, I guess we all want to belong to groups.
Somewhere, yeah.
Don't we?
You've got your friends and everything, but there's something special about a home group.
Yeah, and I guess we sort of, we sort of need to belong, as I just said, and we need to be with other people, and we need to grow in that thing. Because if we're not growing, if we're not with, and I even think even if we're in a big church and we're not growing, well, I do question why we're there.
Yeah, why there?
But
exactly.
It isn't. But Greg, it is important to go to church. It is important to be with other people who are like-minded, who know, who. It's very important because people. A lot of people don't
yoked with.
Exactly, because a lot of people don't go to church and are Christians, and they do it. They do that on their own. They do Christianity on their own, and they're by themselves at home. And they, and I guess, look, God is everywhere. He's not necessarily at church. He's there, but he's everywhere. He's in your home. He's, But I think we do need to sort of be with other people. It's to work with each other, to help each other out, to say, hey, how you going, and what's going on for you, and when you're going through a hard time, you can't do that on your own. Jesus never wanted us to do anything like that. That's why he had 12 disciples, so they can do life together and then go out and preach what he has done and start. This is what the church was all about.
Yeah, look, I totally agree with you.
About coming together, about being a body and supporting one another, helping one another, growing with one another.
Yes.
And Jesus wants to. It's about unity. Absolutely. And I think that's just the bottom line. It's about
and like I said earlier, the more I think about that statement about healthy churches, the statement you made before, the more I think about it, the more I totally agree with it.
Okay, well, we've got to take a break, Greg.
Oh, yes.
We'll come back later.
Okay, all right.
Well, we'll be back after the break with our resident pastor, James Layton.
Hi, I'm James from Encore Church in Hawthorne. It's good to be back on the show. Last time I was on the show, I talked about this idea of a dinner party and Jesus being there and you being there with some of your friends, and we've looked at the idea of who would you invite and why would you invite them. Last time it was, what would you wear? Sounds like a bit of an inoculate question, but it's a really deep question because it exposes motives. What would you wear if Jesus was coming to dinner? And we talked about the idea of what's it like to be emotionally naked, to let people see you for how you really are. Well, now I've got another question. This dinner party idea just won't go away. So I'm thinking about if Jesus was coming to a dinner party at your house with half a dozen of your friends, or let's say 12 people. Let's go the 12. 12 seems to be a big dinner party number. This is Jesus, remember? Where would you sit? Let that sink in for a minute. It's a deeper question than what you think. Where would you sit? Now, I put this question on Facebook and I was marvelled at the answers I got. I was surprised at how many people gave an answer that sounded good, but they didn't really answer the question. They'd say something like, it doesn't matter where you sit, Jesus loves everybody all the same. Great, it's true, but it's religious bollocks. It's not an honest answer. Where would you sit? You haven't answered the question. Oh, it doesn't matter. I'd just be happy to be in the room. Great. Where would you sit? And I've been pressing people's buttons on this, both mostly personally, just one-on-one. Where would you sit? And I found people don't want to answer the question. And you know what? Something in me doesn't want to answer the question as well. So I'm going to read you a Bible verse just from people that were at dinner with Jesus, right? This comes out of the book of John, written by John. You'll be interested to note how John refers to himself. So Jesus has a moment where it says, after these things, Jesus became visibly upset. I'm reading out of 13 verses 21, Message Bible, so it's not good on verses, but great on language. After he said these things, Jesus became visibly upset, and then he told them why. one of you is going to betray me. Now, Jesus had this beautiful honesty. He didn't live in fear of what people thought. So he could say, you know what, Judas, it's you. But that's not my point. My point is, the disciples looked around at one another, wondering who on earth he was talking about. One of the disciples, the one Jesus loved dearly, was reclining against him, his head on his shoulder. Isn't that interesting? John wrote this, and he refers to himself as the one Jesus loved dearly. Question: can you refer to yourself that way? Now, if Jesus was at your dinner party, would you be the one with your head on his shoulder? I'm not sure if you've been down to a local bar recently, or at a restaurant, or at the footy. I'm not sure how often you see that. How often do you see one man leaning with his head on another man's shoulder? That's intimacy. There's no fear there. There's no, I'm a big macho man, I can't get close to other men. That's intimacy. Now, something about that makes you envious of what John had. And I've got to ask myself, where would I sit? Would I be John, sitting with my head on Jesus' shoulder? I'm going to be really honest with you. I'm a pastor. I lead a church. I've been a Christian for 25 years. I don't think I could do that. There's something about that level of intimacy I'm not sure if I've fully got yet. I'm working on it. I've been doing a lot of heart work over the last few years. But man, I'm still on that journey. There's another story, Mary and Martha. Mary, again, dinner table. Mary sitting at Jesus' feet, a lot like John, reclining against Jesus. Martha, on the other hand, is out. She's busy serving. She's doing the dishes. She's waiting on tables. And she's angry at Mary because Mary's just having an intimate moment with Jesus. So that's exposed something in Martha. So Martha says to Martha says to Jesus, tell Mary off. She's doing the wrong thing. And Jesus goes, I'm sorry, Martha. She's doing the right thing. You're busy. You haven't got me for long. She's doing the right thing. Not sure how Martha felt about that, but a question that raised in my mind was Martha's busyness masking her fear of intimacy? You know, sometimes we get really busy. It's really easy in church life to be busy and to hide in busyness, because when you're busy, everything looks right. It looks like lots of people come into church and they serve. They're hard workers and everything looks good. But when you go deep, there's no intimacy. There's something missing. I think there's a word for it. It's that old word again, religion. I think we can hide behind things that look good and yet not really press into intimacy, because again, intimacy exposes us. Maybe this exposes something deeper, the idea of where you would sit around the dinner table with Jesus. Maybe this exposes your idea. It certainly does me. I'm going to be honest with you. It exposes my idea or my belief of how Jesus sees me. Because if I'm sitting at the end of the table, not seen, what is it my heart's telling me about how I think Jesus sees me? What if I'm sitting, to be honest, I'm the type of guy, most of my life pattern, I would have been the guy sitting opposite Jesus. Dead on, looking at Jesus, trying to get his attention, because I love to be noticed. I don't want to be the guy at the end of the table no one sees. I want to be seen. I'm not quite up to the intimacy of leaning head on shoulder as much as I'd love to be, and I am jealous of Mary and John that they had that level of intimacy with Jesus. And that's really my life mission, is working towards that. My life purpose is more around who I am and being well, rather than accomplishing something amazing. But I think I would have, during my 20s years in business, I would have probably sat across from Jesus and tried to tell him how successful I was. And so to get his attention, to get him to like me, to get him to approve of me. But again, I need intimacy with Jesus. And you know what? You do too. And that's going to take something of you. That's going to require something of you. That's going to take a courage from you to step into that level of intimacy with Jesus. You may want to start with other people. That's generally how God starts you on the journey, doing it with other people. But I want to challenge you, and I'll leave you with this. Go for intimacy. Don't hide behind busyness. Don't hide behind religion. Don't hide behind looking good. Have a crack at getting close and see what happens. Thanks.
Welcome back. I'm here with my husband Greg. Now, Greg, I loved what James was talking about.
Absolutely.
Where would you sit? I mean, because the last time you talked about what would you wear if Jesus came for dinner, and this time it's where would you sit?
Where would you sit?
So where would you sit?
Gee, I think I would wait until Jesus was seated, and then I'd say, Jesus, I would like to have your chair. I wanted that chair. No. You know, I think I would just wait until everyone's seated, and then there's a spare chair, and I would take that chair.
That's being a little bit of a...
Self-sacrificing?
Bit of a martyr there.
Well, I'm just... really, I thought about it, and I thought, I don't know where I'd want to sit, so I'll just let Providence or just let nature take its course, and I'll just sit wherever there's a spare chair.
Okay. Well, you know what? I
wasn't really trying to be self-sacrificing or anything like that.
Fair enough. We'll allow that one to slip past.
Yeah.
But, you know, I was thinking about where I would sit. And I was, first of all, I thought, well, you know, I'd sit somewhere where, probably right in front of Jesus so he'd notice me. But then I thought, well...
He notices you anyway.
But the thing is, Greg, he's come to my house for dinner, so of course he's going to notice me.
Yeah,
and our table's not that big anyway, so he's going to have to notice every one of us. But, you know, it's this whole thing about wanting to be noticed. I mean, you know, it happens all... We
all want to be noticed. We
do. We all, you know, don't you just love it when you go to church and you hear that there's a visiting prophet and you want to try and get the front row so he can say, you know, you there in the front row and I've got a word for you.
Just let me think for a minute. Was it me that noticed you to start with, or was it you that noticed me? Oh, for goodness sakes.
I think it was you that noticed me, actually.
I'm not sure about that one. Anyway.
But, you know, Greg, I just think Jesus notices everyone. And I love the story in the Bible, and it's about the woman that had a problem with an issue of blood. That's what they call it. And she was bleeding. And it's just not your regular monthly female bleeding. It's actually, she bled all the time, pretty much. So she'd visited physicians, you know, for about, I think it was like 7 years or more. So Jesus was in a crowd. There was everyone pressing in on Jesus. She touched the hem of his garment. And immediately he said, "Who touched me?"
Oh, no.
Now,
it's amazing.
The disciples were baffled by that because they said, well, what are you talking about, Jesus? Because there's all these people, there's throngs of people pressing against you. How could you ask who touched me when there's all these people touching you? But, you know, he felt the power of, a bit of the power of God moving out of him.
Yeah.
And it was this woman. She touched him and she was healed instantaneously just by touching the hem of
it's amazing.
His garment.
Amazing.
Now, he noticed that. So if he notices something like that when there's all these people pressing in against himself, like, you know, it's like he notices each and every single person.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. I mean, you know, the Bible says there's, you know, if everything was written about him, of what he did to people, how he healed them, how he set them free, delivered them, there wouldn't be enough books
True.
to fill it with, because you know, basically he just did so much. Every single person that he came in contact with, he set them free. So, you know, this whole thing about being noticed.
I don't know why I've thought of this, but it's a bit like you might be in a big crowd somewhere and there might be lots of noise and everything going on, but when you hear your own child cry, or you hear through all that noise, you can pick your own child. But this is someone who's apparently he doesn't know, and it wasn't even an audible thing, it was just a touch.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, amazing.
And just going to come back to the whole thing of wanting to be noticed and wanting to be, you know, why is it that we want the visiting prophet to notice us? Why is it that we...
Explain the X factor, explain the voice, explain, you know.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, Jesus, we know that really, I mean, because Jesus is not here in the physical, we sort of forget that we need to have a word all the time. We need for,
well,
we
actually,
don't
I'm not
seek
sure about
Jesus
that.
out.
He actually is in the physical. It's just that we don't see it.
Well, that's true, because I mean the Holy Spirit does represent Jesus.
I know you don't want to get down that path, but
no, but with our human eyes, we can't see Jesus. Spiritually, yes, we should. Yes, and we should be practicing that.
Yes.
But I have to say, but I think it's like, because we can't see with our eyes, our physical eyes, then that's why we want someone to acknowledge us. That's why we want the visiting prophet to have a word. Yes, God has a word for you, but really we shouldn't be seeking that, should we? We shouldn't.
We do all want it, and every time I'm in that situation, I do want it.
Yeah, of course.
But because it's never happened to me. I don't think I've ever been picked out for something like that. I think you have, haven't you?
Yes, I've been.
But even if I have been picked out, I want to be picked out again.
Well, exactly, and it's like it's a never-ending recognition, really, because it's a worldly recognition.
Yes,
it's not
correct.
It's not God's.
That's why that desire can never be met. It can never be fulfilled.
Well, that's right.
Because once it happens to you, you want it again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I've lost my train of thought now.
Well, that's okay. Well, it's just basically that we want to be noticed. And look, have we grown as a society like that we almost have to cry out to be noticed? I don't know. It's just the way things are.
But I think we've grown into that whole thing of being noticed. Because I mean, years ago we didn't have television. We didn't have Facebook, we didn't have Twitter, we didn't have all those, all that social media and all that sort of things that would, to sort of say, here we are and look at me and look at what I've done. But it's the thing with Facebook and Twitter and all is that you're having to constantly say, this is what I'm doing now, this is what I'm, recognise me because I'm doing this. It's never like a once-off post.
Well, I don't know because I've never even seen Twitter.
Yeah, but
I know about Facebook.
And it's like being on the X Factor. It's like here I am, notice me, and it's like, but you have to have that constant recognition. It's never.
The problem with that, we're sort of going off on a tangent here, but that doesn't matter. The problem with that is, yes, everyone that appears on those shows, we all do the same. If I had a voice, I'd want to go on The Voice, and I'd probably want to win it as well. It's just the damage that is done along the way, because you have hundreds and sometimes thousands of entrants, but there's only ever one winner.
True.
So it's a pretty tough competition and a tough price to pay if you're not the winner.
Well, and just say we really just need the recognition from God. I think that's the most important thing, and if we can stay in that. Well, that's all we have for tonight, Greg. So we'll talk some more later, I'm sure.
Quickly.
Well, that is all we have for tonight. So you've been watching Man, Woman, God. I'm Nikki Cauchi. I've been here with my husband, Greg, and we just want to say God bless you, and we'll see you next week.